So you mentioned that you were raised by hard women. I'm just genuinely curious. Like, is how you were raised and you getting a chance to raise your child, would you take the same aspects of how you were raised into like the one that you're going to bring up?
The poem says, I was raised by hard women. The poem does not say the women raised me in a hard way. You understand?
I see.
So it's not a comment on how they raised me. It's a comment on who they were as they raised me.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, so let's backtrack. I'm assuming some of you don't necessarily know you. We just read a bio, and they're like, hey, she's very prestigious. We don't feel like she's a human being at this point. She's a deity and all those things. So just who is Ska? Like, who is the typical Ska, if we're going to ask that?
Typical Ska is me. I'm loud, I'm vibrant. I like to say if you hear my poetry, honestly, you know me. I love dancing. I love tea. It's in the poems, honestly. One of my lines that I like to repeat is that if you're ever looking for me in my poetry, that's where you'll find me.
Okay. So from people consuming your work, you put your persona into the work that you do?
Yes, I do. Not entirely, but yes. Yes, especially when I perform pieces about myself or my life, because again, I chose a very specific part of the pieces I perform, right?
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, so especially when I perform pieces like this, for sure, there's a lot of me in it.
So is that intentional for you? Do you choose to be authentic, be honest with the way that you put out, or are there moments where you need to cover up who you are in the work that you put out?
I feel like, just again, my poetry is where I'm most vulnerable and honest with myself. I feel like there's so much covering up in the world. So in my art, I try to be my most raw self.
I see. Before niendelee kuuliza swali, kuna mtu akona swali?
Hello.
Hi.
In your final poem, where you've talked about the goal, you've talked a bit about divine femininity. What does that mean for you? What does divine femininity mean to you?
Well, for me, I think divine femininity is really just the feminine traits that we have, the ones that already exist. But I think the divinity for me comes in women actually owning those things. Like, you know, whether you own it or not, you're a woman, so you will be like that. But the divinity comes in when you own it and you say, like, yes, this is my body. I will do with it what I want. This is my softness. I will not allow the world to tell me that it is wrong. So for me, I think the divinity, the divine, is just owning that femininity and deciding, this is who I am. This is who I am. Like, whether the world hates me or loves me, this is who I am, and I'm deciding to own it and speak power to who I already am. So I don't classify it as something like specific traits. It's just saying, as the woman that you already are, it's owning yourself and realizing your power and deciding to walk in that power.
My name is Odur. Congratulations on what you do with poetry. I really loved it, and I am floored by how good you are.
Thank you.
Yeah, the question I wanted to ask you is, when you talked about women that raised you, had scars on their foreheads, were very strong, it sounded, there is this movie that we watch about women, what is it called? I've forgotten the name, but where there with these women fighting and taking control. What is it called? Yes, Wonder Woman. It sounded, it sounded like Wonder Woman kind of story. In your head, you're thinking that the women now do not have scars in their heads, on their foreheads. Are you telling them to have scars on their foreheads? I I don't know if you're understanding my question.
No, I'm not. Please just ask
Like,
again.
okay, let me go back a little bit and say, do you think that the women today are strong as those women that you talk of? I think that's perhaps the question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Ultimately, I think that the women today, like myself, let's say, I think that we're strong. We're very strong, but I think that poem recognizes that even in our strength, there are a lot of things that the women in other generations faced that we will never have to face. Which is not to say we're any strong. I'm sure if we had to face those things, we would also be equal to task, and I think we're just as strong. But there are things the women in past generations faced that we will never face, and we don't face them because those women ensured that we don't face them.
Hi, Scar.
Hello.
Yeah, so from listening to your poetry, and you say that your poetry defines you, where to find you is your poetry, then just that makes me want to ask, what does Scar, why Scar? Does it have a meaning? Like, is it just a name?
It's a little bit of both. So my full name is Priska. And so my friends just started calling me Scar at some point. But yeah, exactly. So my friends started calling me Scar at some point. And then I used to perform a lot in uni, and of course in uni, you know, you hold these events when organized to amongst friends. So they'd introduce me, and then they'd be like, and on stage is Scar. They'd use my nickname, and I think it just stuck. But also I intentionally embraced it because, as she said, I write poetry that is about healing, poetry that's about finding yourself. And I thought Scar is such a befitting name. Because, as I said, when Lexus asked me a couple of questions before, a scar is evidence that where there was once a wound, there's now healing. And so, I don't know, I found it very befitting for my poetry.
A follow-up question. This one, I've been asking myself if I should ask this. But then from listening to you, I remember there was a line that went, when they see us, they see more of our body than us, right? Something of that sort, yeah. Which made me like just want to ask this. How much of woman is body? Does that make sense?
I know I would ask you how much of man is body.
Which is, I would answer that by whatever you answer.
No. I'm not dodging your question. I'm just saying how much of man, like not even men, like man in the universal sense of the world, how much of us is our bodies? I come from the school of thought that believes our body is our vessel. It's just where we live in while we're here. And so there's my mind, there's my soul, there's the things I love, there's the friendships I have built. Like, I am a person before I am a body, right? So, like, there's the person, and I don't have a problem with my body being part of my identity. The problem we have as women is when our body becomes our full identity. You can see the women clapping. That's all we have to say, man.
There are pieces you've done about to say what the man has done wrong, Sindo, in relevance to the woman, in it or feminine something. Just listen. There's sense in it. So, have you done a piece on what in your mind you think someone who will be doing it right, Anaka, for example, because you have a very important tool in your hands. A lot of women listen to you in this room, for example. What about the woman who has her mind fixed? Sasa akuskie, the way you describe it. The man who does it right. Could you just give us like a preview of the man you think, in your case, will be doing it right?
First and foremost, again, a lot of presumptions, right? You're asking me about the man who does it right, and I'm like, Anyway, when I write that poem, I will share it as well.
Okay. Hi, Scar.
Hi.
So, one thing I'm carrying away from your performance today is the embodiment. For me, it was the embodiment of the statement that we are products of our environment. And so, and I also have a very strong belief that as human beings, our circumstances may have the power to try to define us, but because we are creators in and of ourselves, we are also not helpless in the sense that these environments that define us are things that we can change. So my question to you would be, based off of that, as a creator yourself, if there was to be an ideal situation where things work, like, you see, you've told us a lot about how you were brought up. You've told us a lot of it were things that you were not in control of. You were part of a group or an environment that brought you up to be the person you are today. But then when you look at the life we are living in today, how then do we replicate that in a way that helps us to be better and do better? If you were to be in charge of coming up with something like that, what things will you change?
You know, I find questions like those very no, because to be honest, we want to simplify and generalize and say, show us the way. Tell us what would be ideal. Show us how to move forward. But we all live such different lives, right? We are all in very different situations. So how to move forward for all of us would be so fucking different. As long as you're moving with honesty, integrity, love, and all those things, they'll show up differently in your life, but you'll be moving in the same direction.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah, first of all, thank you for the performance. It was beautiful.
Thank you.
The question I and probably a few people have is, what haven't we asked you tonight that you think we would benefit from hearing?
Scott, as a person who has seen you grow, who has seen you rise through all this, and I want you to encourage the young poets like you, especially the lady poets who look up to you. What are some of the challenges? What are some of those challenges that you faced through your journey that made you who you are, that you can tell them that they can look up to become somebody like you?
I would say that I don't know kama ni sisi ama ni nyinyi, but at the beginning of sharing my poetry, I felt like the women poets are not embraced in the same way that men poets are.
Okay. No. Wait. Uh-huh.
Not even by like people or anything, but like by yeah, I just felt like they're not embraced in the same way. That being said, once I felt like, because kuna hizi, should I call them like traditional avenues zenye, as a poet, the channels za kumake it, you know?
For sure.
There's slam, there's kwani, there's all the events, you guys know them. So I just felt that maybe women are not embraced in the same way that men are. That being said, once I felt that I didn't decide, now, because I'm not being embraced in the same way, let me go and, give up poetry. I decided, fine, these communities of poetry, like Nihad Kupenya as a woman, but then what can I do? And that's when I started my TikTok page. And I decided I will share my poetry like in the spaces that no one has shared them before. I will where they say where there's no path, forge one. So I decided if being in this community is not working, then it's not for me.